Now let's talk about another crisis, the crisis that Israel's Prime Minister finds himself in. Benjamin Netanyahu is facing heat from all sides. From the people of Israel, from his own government, from the US, and even from the International Criminal Court. Everywhere he turns, the daggers are out. His options are limited. On the domestic front, he is choosing to defy the people of Israel. They've accused him of failing the hostages. Hamas captured more than 250 Israelis and took them into Gaza. This was during the October 7th attack. About 130 hostages have not been returned. Some have died during the fighting, but about 100 are still with Hamas. Their families obviously want them returned, and they blame Netanyahu for failing to do this.
Families of the hostages, we are gathered to call upon the cabinet members, get out of government if you can't secure a hostage deal now.
Hands painted red are a common sign in Israel now. Protests against the Prime Minister keep taking place regularly. Over half of Israel's population wants him to resign immediately. About 58% of those polled, they want him to resign. 28% of the people who voted for Netanyahu during the election also want him to step down, which means he has lost over a quarter of his supporters. If he resigns, he may never get another shot. This could be his last stint as Prime Minister of Israel, so he's doing everything he can to prolong this term, even bowing down to his coalition partners. You see, Netanyahu did not win the 2022 election outright. The parliament in Israel has 120 seats, the Knesset, 120 seats, and the Prime Minister's Likud party has only 32 of these seats. He is in power because of a coalition government, a coalition that includes people like this.
If you decide to raise a white flag and cancel the order to occupy Rafah immediately, in order to complete the task of destroying Hamas and to restore security to the residents of the South and to the citizens of Israel, and to return all our abducted brothers and sisters to their homes, the government headed by you will have no right to exist.
That's Bezalel Smotrich. He's one of Netanyahu's coalition partners. He's threatening to oust the Prime Minister if he does not attack the city of Rafah. That's the last refuge for Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. Another hardline coalition partner is Itamar Ben-Gvir. He put up this reminder on Sunday. It roughly translates to an irresponsible deal equals to the government's dissolution. He's talking about the ongoing hostage negotiations with Hamas, the deal that protesting citizens want Netanyahu to take, but his cabinet colleagues want him to reject. So the Prime Minister is caught between the devil and the deep blue sea. He cannot be forced to resign, but his coalition can dissolve the government, which is why Netanyahu has declared that he will invade Rafah. Regardless of a ceasefire deal, he will invade. He's choosing to stay in power despite the will of the Israeli people. He's willing to destroy the last city still standing in Gaza to appease his hardline coalition. But by doing this, he risks angering Israel's biggest foreign backer, the United States of America. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in Israel. He met the Prime Minister today. The U.S. has drawn a red line around Rafah. It wants a concrete plan to keep civilians safe. Until that happens, it won't support any Israeli operation there. But will Netanyahu listen? At a time when he needs more help from the US because he faces another external problem. The International Criminal Court. The ICC is a court based in the Netherlands, in The Hague. It investigates genocides, crimes against humanity and war crimes, and it has issued an arrest warrant against Russian President Vladimir Putin in the past. That was last year. Now, the same ICC plans to do this with Netanyahu, issue an arrest warrant.
You have to hear this to believe this. The International Criminal Court in The Hague is contemplating issuing arrest warrants against senior Israeli government and military officials as war criminals. This would be an outrage of historic proportions.
The warrants may come as soon as this week. What does this actually mean? Will the court arrest Netanyahu? Will they haul him to the Netherlands in chains? Well, that won't happen. The ICC does not have a police force to do that. And Israel, like Russia, does not recognize the International Criminal Court. So Israel is under no obligation to arrest Netanyahu for the ICC, even if there's an arrest warrant against him. That's the case in Israel and all the other countries that do not recognize this court. But 124 countries in the world do recognize this court, and they will have to arrest Netanyahu if he ever visits, which means the Israeli Prime Minister's movements will become limited. He will only be safe if he avoids most countries in the world. If the ICC issues the warrant, it will be a major inconvenience for him. And more than that, really, it will be a statement that Netanyahu's actions in Gaza are similar to Putin's actions in Ukraine. That won't be a good look, and it explains Netanyahu's outburst.
Israel expects the leaders of the free world to stand firmly against the ICC outrageous assault on Israel's inherent right of self-defense. We expect them to use all the means at their disposal to stop this dangerous move.
He's talking about the US here. He wants Washington to help him, and they are doing so. The US does not recognize the ICC either, and they don't support its case against Netanyahu. So Washington is behind him, at least for now, at least until he toes the American line. As you can see, Netanyahu is surrounded. He's facing opposition from every side. One wrong move, and it could be over for him. Let's see how he navigates through this mess.